Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I am joined once again by Harman Dial. Great to have you back. Harm, how was your weekend?
It was good. I was at the Habs game, which is always a treat. It was like I always knew there were going to be quite a few Canadiens fans, but just shocked at how I think it's the first time I've ever experienced a game where the Canucks went out on the ice on Rogers Arena and were booed because there were so many Habs fans. And then when the road team, the Canadiens, stepped on the ice, there were cheers.
That's
Um,
crazy.
but in all seriousness, I think in the past it's usually been more of a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
But it was very Montreal heavy in that game,
Really?
and it made for a really fun atmosphere. But it was the first time I thought where it felt like, all right, there are more road fans than Canucks fans, anecdotally.
Fair enough. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was the case. And if I were there, that would have been the first time.
There
For
was
me
a
as
whole
well.
section on one of the sides that was basically a sea of red.
That's crazy. That's wild. I don't really know how to transition from that. I'll be there tonight for the New York Rangers. Don't think there's going to be as many Rangers fans, but that's another team. It's the original 6 teams. I think that's the easiest way to figure it out. The original 6 teams that come out, and they travel well. Their fans travel well, and they have them all over the country. All right, New York Canucks tonight. JT Miller makes his return. Harm, we had morning skate. The JT Miller scrum is up on YouTube. We're gonna get to a couple clips from it, but just your initial reaction to this matchup tonight.
I think it's going to be, well, there's the on ice component, and then there's the whole JT Miller return angle. I think if you're focusing on the JT Miller return angle, I expect the reception to be overwhelmingly positive from the crowd. I don't know what you guys think.
For
Um,
sure, for sure.
Obviously, his legacy in Vancouver is complicated, right? He even just on the ice, he alternated between years where he was an elite superstar caliber two-way forward, but then he would follow those up with years where he was an empty calorie point producer who turned a lot of pucks over and would give up on plays defensively, right? So first year he came into Vancouver, he was playing on the wing with JT Miller, had 72 points in 69 games, and was an elite two-way driver from the wing. That was, all right, you get the elite version of him. Then the pandemic year, where after the bubble run, the whole team struggled. JT was below a point per game, and his two-way metrics, especially playing center ice, just absolutely cratered. Then he had the 99-point season. In between, there was also obviously the 103-point year in 2024-25. But then we also saw before he got traded where sure he was picking up points here and there, but it felt like he was. Then there was the whole fallout with the feud with Jeff Paterson, and it leading to the trade. But ultimately, when I step back and look at Miller's overall tenure as a Canuck, he was acquired for a first-round pick and just expected to be a top 6 contributor. He was never leaned on to be a franchise pillar or expected to be even a point per game guy. He was a 45, 50-point player in his career up until he got the bigger opportunity in Vancouver. So by that token, to produce at the level that he did and have the peaks where sure there were the valleys as well, but the peaks he hit where on any given night he could be one of the most impactful players in the league. It was an overwhelmingly, I think, positive sort of trade for the Canucks acquiring him from Tampa. And I think, especially among the casual fan base, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I think it's different than Twitter. I think Twitter has a larger percentage of the fan base that is likely to be a little bit anti-JT. Whereas if you just run into Canucks fans here and there, the types that maybe aren't as obsessed with consuming content and just watch the games with their buddies, I find a lot of them are more likely to be JT fans and choose to view him from the lens of, oh, look at what a competitor he was, hard-nosed. And so because of that, I'm expecting the Rogers Arena reception to be really positive for him.
100%. I agree. There's going to be a video tribute. He talked about it today that it's going to be emotional. He's really trying to focus on the game. Like, this Ranger team needs wins so badly. 3 wins on the season. Irf and I kind of talked about it yesterday, but we kind of went through their schedule, and they've lost to some bad teams. Like, they lost 6-5 to San Jose. They lost 5-1 most recently to the Calgary Flames. Wagon, but still, like, in the grand scheme, not a great team right now. And of course, there was the opening night loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins where they got shut out, man. So there was that shutout streak at home. They've got enough stuff to worry about in New York, and that was kind of the theme of Miller's not press conference, but scrum today, where he kind of met up with some old friends in the Vancouver media. Speaking of friends in the Vancouver media, let's get to Jeff Paterson. Okay, so people in the chat, I'm going to get to this quickly. People in the chat are complaining that we're lagging. We're working fine. Like, I can see it. We're working fine. Just refresh. It's a problem with YouTube. So, yeah, just refresh if you're having issues. But there's no issues for us or our stream. And Jacob does a good job. Cody in the chat said Jacob just wants people to refresh so they get double the ad revenue. All right. Everyone refresh stream if you're having troubles. Let's get to Jeff Patterson, who's a presentation of our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, both home and away. You can skip the line and not have to pay any cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta, including $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 on select drinks, and more. With the arcade, bar, and street food menu, Greta Bar YVR is a great spot. Make it your spot to get out and watch the game. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Jeff Patterson joins us now. Jeff was at Morning Skate. Jeff, before we get to the nitty gritty of Morning Skate, the lineup, all that sort of stuff, just your reaction. JT Miller returns to Rogers Arena.
Yeah, well, you guys know the drill. 82 games. It's a long grind in the National Hockey League. Most of the game days feel the same. They kind of look the same as well, but there are a few throughout the season that stand out, and this was one of them. I mean, you could just tell everybody that went to the rink this morning, all the media members, I think all the Canucks staffers, they all recognized that the return of JT is a big deal. Like, this guy is 12th all-time in franchise scoring, second only to Pavel Bure in points per game. You just kind of went through the highs and lows of his time here, so we don't have to do that again. But yeah, it had a different feel to it. And the New York media core, they still travel a bunch of people. Imagine that there are markets that send reporters out on the road. So it wasn't just a fairly strong Vancouver media contingent. You sprinkle that in with the people that cover the Rangers as well. There was a lot going on in that Rangers locker room. And obviously, as the doors opened, big stampede. It was kind of funny because Carson Soucy had the stall just inside the door. As people are stampeding across the room, they're like, "Hey, Carson," but everybody's making their way over to JT Miller. So this is not about the return of Carson Soucy. He's here and he's playing, but this is about JT Miller. And look, I thought JT handled himself as he usually did. He's rough around the edges and he's gruff, but deep down, there's a pretty thoughtful guy in there. I thought he handled it all pretty well. And if you don't think this is a big deal, guys, he revealed that his wife and his 2 daughters are here for this. And you think of his wife and her social media accounts, like the game day experience was a big deal. All the warm-ups down at the glass and JT coming over. So there's probably going to be some of that, although that was always in the Canucks end of the ice. I'm not sure how it'll work at the other end. But he said, like, the daughters went and visited old classmates and old hockey teammates of theirs. So this was clearly a date and a road trip that they recognized the minute the schedule came out and had a little more heft to it. But he also was very quick to point out that beyond all of the external things that he can't control, there's a hockey game. And they're just not very good out of the gates here. I mean, 3 wins in 10 games. They're the second lowest scoring team in the National Hockey League behind the Calgary Flames, who lit them up the other night. So they don't score much. Igor Shesterkin has been absolutely torched the last 2 games to the point that Jonathan Quick is going to get the start here in goal for the Rangers tonight. So it is all about JT, and it's going to be at the rink, and it's going to be wild to sort of soak in that atmosphere. And I think it will be overwhelmingly positive, but I just love that with where the Canucks are right now and all the injured bodies, there's no way around it. It's going to be EP40 against JT Miller as the primary matchup in this hockey game, and that, of course, presents a whole bunch more storylines for all of us to dive into.
Were there any interesting takeaways, because you were at both scrums, from Pettersson's scrum, and I imagine he fielded some questions around JT's return, and not just from the perspective of their complicated relationship, but even matching up against him tonight and the on ice battle, and how tantalizing it's going to be, especially with Patterson having recently turned a corner in his own game.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I mean, the first bunch of questions were about the hockey game and no Quinn and Tom Willander's debut. And it was like, what are we doing here? Like, let's get to it. And I think it was Farhan ultimately that jumped right in there and talked about it. And you could tell that Elias Pettersson didn't really want to engage and go down that road. Gave a couple of answers, but his way of getting around it was, I already faced them. And he did after the trade. The Canucks were in New York. And in fact, I think that was the game that he got injured. And so, yeah, Petey didn't want to engage. JT took it on head on and was open to 5 or 6 minutes of questions, most of them about his return. But he also talked about going head to head with Elias Pettersson as well. So these guys know what's going on. I thought Pettersson could have helped himself a little bit by opening up and just give us I get that this is a big deal for all of you guys, but I'm focused on the hockey game. We got to find a way to win again without Quinn Hughes. But instead, it was one of those cases where he just really didn't seem to want to answer a bunch of questions. And I guess I understand that, but he's going to have to let his actions speak for themselves tonight as these two teams match up at Rogers Arena.
Should be a good game. Canucks, like you said, banged up, but the Rangers really, really need some wins here, and they need them quickly. So what are you expecting to see on ice tonight?
Yeah, the Canucks, I think even at this level, like these guys are elite level athletes and all high achievers and performers. But I think sometimes they need some positive reinforcement. And the fact that they got a win over the Edmonton Oilers without Quinn Hughes, I think proves to them, like they could have had themselves a pity party and people would have understood if they hadn't played particularly well the other night. But when you got Thatcher Demko, you have more than a chance. And Demko goes again for the Canucks. So right there, he's likely to hold them in this game if that's what they require. But look, no Quinn, and it is concerning because they just keep saying day to day. Well, Derek Forbort was once day to day, and today he was put on long-term injury. So you just never know. I think they're going to evaluate Quinn again tomorrow, and then tomorrow's a travel day, and they're out on the road for 3. So nobody seems to know. But what we do know is that they won't have their captain, their best player. And I just thought, in the absence of Quinn Hughes, I thought Philip Hronek was spectacular the other night. I thought Marcus Pettersson played a career high in ice time. DPD played a career high. Like, they leaned on those guys, and they responded. And that was against McDavid and Draisaitl, and it wasn't a perfect game, but they found a way through. And so right then and there, it shows them that they can grind out victories, that they can win hockey games. All it takes is Kiefer Sherwood playing like an NHL All-Star. I don't know if he can keep that up on a nightly basis, but boy, what a start to the season for him. Connor Garland going great guns as well, and signs of life from EP40. So there's still enough in this Canucks lineup, I think, to get past a team like the Rangers. I don't know if there's enough in this lineup right now to deal with the mighty Mammoth or Colorado or some of the top teams in the conference, but I think the Rangers are gettable. And they're sort of their wheels are spinning right now, and they've got some issues. So we'll see if the Canucks can pounce. But again, I think Sunday was big for a number of reasons. Responded to the loss, even though they played well against Montreal on Saturday, but they didn't get a result. They couldn't go the whole weekend without getting something out of those. So to be 5-5 at the 10-game mark with all the travel, the injuries, and only 4 home games, all things considered, I think 5-5 is fine. But at some point, if they think that they're going to be a playoff team, obviously they're going to have to get some traction and get on some sort of run at some point.
4 points over the weekend for Elias Pettersson in those 2 games. Jeff, what do you think's changed compared to the first 3 games of the year, where a lot of people, including ourselves, were a little bit concerned about, okay, this is a bit of a slow start for EP40. Feels like he's turned a corner lately. And of course, small sample. No one's saying, oh, he's fully back. He has to show this for 20 games, 30 games, 40 games before we can feel really confident in that assumption. But he's really looking more like a 1C over the last few games, and especially over this weekend. What do you think has changed?
Well, I think being attached to Garland is a huge help, and those two seem to have restored some chemistry that they've had in the past as well. And Connor Garland is just playing at an exceptional level and is so fun to watch on just about every shift. That third period shift against the Oilers where he was just buzzing and taken the puck off like 5 different Edmonton guys and came close. The roof would have blown off Rogers Arena if they had been able to convert and score on that shift. But so there's a nice chemistry between those two guys. I think you're seeing some confidence come back to score a one-timer goal the way that he did, although it was funny if next power play puck came right to him, same spot in the wheelhouse, and he completely whiffed on it. So he's not all the way back yet, but even though we know what he's getting paid and he's achieved at this level, confidence can be a fickle thing. And I do think that he's a guy that's battled with some confidence issues, and he hears all the noise around him. And so it looks like he's getting his confidence back. And I think some of it, Harm, is like being prescribed to take on these matchups. Nick Suzuki and Connor McDavid on back-to-back nights. Like, that's a pretty heavy workload. And he came through it. And so, so often I think it gets you into a game. You understand there's really no margin for error. Those guys can embarrass you if you're not on the top of your game. And defensively, he's been good throughout. And now we're starting to see some of the offense come as well. And so I love that opening goal against Montreal on Saturday. Garland makes a great play in the neutral zone, but Petey attacked with speed. He hit the blue line with speed and then drops it off. Hronek makes a nice play and delays. DeBrusk slices through the middle, and there's Pettersson to finish off the play. So there was a ton to like there, but for me, my sort of takeaway from that one goal in isolation was attacking with speed. Like, we just haven't seen that nearly enough from him for far too long now. So baby steps, and you're right. Nobody's here to proclaim that he's all the way back, but I do think you can start to see a little light at the end of the tunnel here.
Tom Willander makes his NHL debut tonight. What are you expecting to see from him, and how have you thought about the Canucks, how they've dealt with all these injuries that they've been dealing with?
Yeah, I mean, I feel for Mancini, that he would have loved to have played against his former team. And Philip Hedl, of course, got hurt a week before the Canucks faced the Rangers at Madison Square last year. And here, Philip Hedl on the sideline again. So not a whole lot to show from the trade, but Canucks have to push on. Next man up mentality. For Willander, 5 games down in Abbotsford, so he's getting his feet wet at the pro game as a goal and an assist. He's not here to provide a ton of offense in his NHL debut. He's a beautiful skater, and we've seen that ever since he arrived. I remember the first development camp. Obviously, when you're picked where you are in the first round, you got a lot of attributes, and skating is one of them. And so I'm just really curious to see how he acquits himself. He's going to be paired with P.O. Joseph. I would imagine they'll shelter, and I don't know how much ice time he's going to see, but it was interesting that Mancini got second unit power play time the other night. So I don't know what that will mean I don't expect Willander to get thrown in there in his first National Hockey League game. But he's just, he's a pretty confident guy. We talked to him this morning. I remember talking to him in training camp in the preseason as well. He believes that he belongs at this level. And so, I don't think he was disappointed or frustrated that he didn't make the team out of camp. I think he understood sort of where he sat on a pretty stacked defensive depth chart, but he also recognized, go down to Abbotsford, learn from Manny and the coaching staff there, and be ready when you get the call. And I think it helps that he was up with the team last week on the road trip, just from a comfort level around the guys and being in an NHL environment and all that kind of stuff. And this is a great opponent. Remember DPD made his NHL debut against the Washington Capitals when they were the top team in the National Hockey League last year? The Rangers are not, unless you turn the standings around. Again, they don't score a lot of goals. So I think this is in a lot of ways just a perfect way to welcome Tom Willander into the National Hockey League, and sort of under the cover of the JT EP40 thing, he can just be a player. Like on a lot of nights, I think there'd be a pretty heavy spotlight on this guy. First round pick, what does he look like? He's playing, but he's not going to be the focal point by any means at all. So I hope that he can just kind of quietly get through his first NHL debut, first NHL game, and have something to build on.
Jeff, last one for me. How do you look back on JT's time as Canuck? You covered him his whole time here. How do you look back? Just putting a bow on this conversation.
I think Harm nailed it. Like, the highs were so high. This guy played his ass off and was so hard to play against, and dragged the, I was talking about dragging the team into the fight. I mean, that's what he did on so many nights. And I think about the playoff series, both against Nashville and against Edmonton. And I just wish there had been more playoff hockey, because this is a guy that was built to compete in playoff hockey. But look, he was a flawed hockey player too. And when it wasn't going his way, it got off the rails way too quickly. And you think about the stick smash in Winnipeg, and, the drop pass that was dissected to death on Hockey Night in Canada There were moments. The blind Wheeling passes into the middle. Like, as much as I remember the great stuff, you can't ignore. Like, that's all part of who he is. And so, he's a complicated guy. But when he was focused on the task at hand, and as the stakes got higher, I just appreciated a guy that showed up and had that will to win. And some nights I look around or up and down this Canuck lineup, and I think, like, they could use so much more of that snarl that was just part of his DNA. And so he was born to be a competitor. He is a competitor. Can't be happy with the record the Rangers got. Look, a lot of it, he's the captain. Like, he has to own where they are in the standings. And so, this is a new chapter for him. But as I look back on, I guess I just coming out of the bubble, like, the expectations for this core group were so high and just were never really realized other than for a couple of weeks in the spring of 2024. And so on that level, I think it's frustrating because they looked like they were poised to really do some good things with the component parts that they had. And JT was part of that. But, I guess when I look back to at the price of acquisition, like, the Canucks slammed that trade. People are always scared to give up first round picks. This is a time that absolutely the Canucks won that trade hands down. And so I choose to look back fondly on his time here, aside from a few moments. And there was nothing personal. Like, I never had an issue with him. I was part of scrums where, you could tell that he wanted to be anywhere else but dealing with us in the media. But that's why I say, like, he was a gruff guy, but deep down, I think he was pretty thoughtful. And I know that this night, even though he has been traded before and gone back and played against former teams, this night means something to him clearly. So really interested to see how it all unfolds.
Jeff, thanks for doing this. We'll see you on Rink-Wide Vancouver, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, we'll be there post-game. Hopefully baseball isn't going until all hours of the night, and we'll have that lane to ourselves. I'm glad we weren't going head-to-head with the baseball game last night, but maybe they'll all be exhausted and just try to get this one over as quickly as possible and leave us some space to digest and dissect JT Miller's return to Vancouver.
Love it. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
There he is, Jeff Patterson. Like I said, host of Rink-Wide Vancouver. Catch him and Irfan Ghaffar, the co-host of Canucks Conversation yesterday. You can catch them on Rink-Wide Vancouver after the game. All right. Do you want to get to the stat of the day, Harm, or would you like to still talk about what we're in for tonight? Because there's a couple things about tonight that I think we can save for anyone else, but anything you're dying to say after that interview with Jeff?
I wanted to quickly touch on Willander and sort of, I guess, calibrating expectations for his debut. First of all, I think it's like comparing the center depth versus the blue line depth is so fascinating, where at center you get one Filipino injury and you're completely screwed. Whereas on the back end, and I'm not talking about, the Canucks blue line is going to be fine without Quinn Hughes, but I'm just generally talking about what a luxury is it to have Willander as your number 9 option on the back end when you have 3 defensemen out, and to have Kudryavtsev, who I also think would be totally fine in an NHL environment, as your 10th option. A lot of teams, they have a competent number 7. They might have an okay number 8, but to go 9, 10 legit options deep is nice for the Canucks. Now for Willander, when I look at his skill set, just based on what we saw in camp and preseason, I expect him to defend the rush pretty well. He's good in scenarios where there are one-on-one puck carriers coming at him. And that was obvious, not even in the preseason games where it was split squad and he's going up against AHL guys. But I think back to 1 or 2 of the Seattle preseason games where he's breaking up plays against guys like Matty Beniers and legit NHL talent, where he is comfortable gapping up, using his 4-way skating ability to match the speed of puck carriers, angle them to the outside, and then sort of use his compete level and physicality to rub guys out against the boards. The D-zone retrievals, I think we also notice, are a bit hit or miss. Some nights they look clean, other nights he's bobbling pucks. And to me, part of the Willander story is whether or not P.O. Joseph can be a steady enough veteran partner for him. I think that's massive, is anytime you have young players that don't have any NHL experience, can you put them in a position to succeed?
Yep.
And this is where it'd be great to have a Derek Forbort, for example, for Willander to play with. The Canucks obviously don't have that luxury. Joseph, he's been up and down really since preseason when you've seen him. Sometimes he can bobble pucks himself in the defensive zone and be sloppy, just trying to make plays up the wall, which, considering that's an inconsistent part of Willander's game, I like, part of the onus and responsibility is on Joseph to be polished with the zone puck touches in the D zone. Because otherwise you don't want that D pair getting hemmed in, and even defensive positioning wise, I haven't always been as impressed with Joseph, but I think if you're the forward group as well, you want to be cognizant of when Willander's on the ice. If you're a winger, for example, and there's a dumping into Vancouver zone, and you see your rookie defenseman playing in his NHL debut on that play, as a winger, you want to come back as deep as you can, hustle your ass off in terms of your off puck movement to give him as easy of an angle in a move. Because sometimes what happens is, whether it's a simple rim around or even a situation where a defenseman has time and space to make a play, the way that the forecheck pressure and angles are coming, there's really only sometimes one or two options for a defenseman. And if you can make sure as a winger that you're doing the hard work to get to that wall first and either force a play out or ideally even make a clean play, like, that can make all the difference between whether your D pair is able to get out of its own zone properly. And I think it would also allow Willander to play a simpler game off of his instincts. If you've got your forwards, your centerman coming deep, and he's, when he's open, communicating really loudly to demand the puck, I think it's important for the forwards as well, knowing that he doesn't have the highest end partner, to assist him as much as possible, and on exits specifically, make life as easy as possible for him.
Over under 12 minutes of ice time for Tom Willander tonight.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
I think I got the line right. Like 12.
That's a good line. That's a good line.
13, I'm taking the under. 11, I'm taking the over, but 12, I'm really not sure.
Oh, man, that's difficult. I'll lean over just a little bit. Especially because Quinn's out of the lineup. If Quinn was in the lineup, I think it would have been a pretty easy under. But we'll see. Part of it will depend on how his shifts go in the beginning and in game situation. It'll be TBD, but I think you nailed it around the 12-minute mark.
All right. I want to get some clips. I told Jacob to get us some clips. We've got 2 from JT Miller, and we've got 1 from Elias Pettersson. JT Miller on returning to Rogers Arena, being a part of Vancouver, coming back to Vancouver. Jacob, you can just play both of those clips.
A lot of good memories here. Some of my best friends still play on the other side. The way that the city treated myself and my family, it's something we'll never forget. Like I said, this building in particular, and a couple games, a couple playoff series was memories that we'll definitely remember. So definitely a special place. It's going to be emotional for me, no doubt. Just trying to worry about our task at hand for the Rangers. I know that emotion's going to be there. I'm just going to try to use it to the best of my ability as I can. Try to stay focused.
Talked about the emotion, man. He knows there's going to be a tribute video. We had someone, and I know I've gotten my soapbox and talked about this before, but I'm going to do it again. We had LC250 in the chat say, will there be a tribute for Susie? They did one for Suter. We need to make this clear, and I've done this before. There is a video tribute, and then there is a welcome back message that flashes on the Jumbotron. They are very different. There was no highlight reel of P.S. Suter's best moments, just like there's not going to be a highlight reel of Carson Soucy's best moments, but there will be one for JT's best moments. There's levels to this, all right? You either get a tribute video, you get the message on the screen, or you get nothing. And Soucy's going to get a message on the screen during the second timeout. It's going to be first TV timeout. That happens tonight. JT's tribute video is going to play. What I'm most curious about is if he's going to, watch it. Like we saw Brad Marchand watch it. They didn't go to commercial. I don't think it's going to be that tonight. But we saw Brad Marchand watch the one when he went back to Boston. What an emotional moment that was for him and his family. JT's family is here tonight. So, like you said, it's going to be emotional. I I'm just curious, like, he talked so much this morning about like how focused he is trying to be and how as a captain, like he can't let him coming back to Vancouver overshadow how badly his team needs a win. So yeah, I think he'll watch it. I think he'll watch it. He'll certainly acknowledge the crowd, and that's the other thing. Say what you want about JT, and I know people have different opinions on him. Dude was all class the minute he left Vancouver too, and while he was in Vancouver. But I more so mean like, he always said nice things about the Canucks after he left, even though obviously it didn't end on great terms. Never has ever said anything bad about the Canucks.
And always raves about living here as well, and his interactions with fans, and even in that scrum, spoke glowingly about how much he loved playing in Vancouver and how many positive memories he built playing here. So I'm with you. I think he's going to be as focused as he can be between the whistles, especially because this Rangers team has been scuffling. And he himself, we weeks ago talked about the training camp injury that he kind of suffered. Through the start of the season, he's looked hampered. He looks like he's playing through something. His foot speed hasn't quite been where it usually is. So it's a tough time for him on the ice individually and for them as a team. But then when you get to the TV timeout, I mean, he of course is going to be watching it and soaking in that moment.
Who am I thinking of that didn't watch their return video? It wasn't Horvat.
I can't remember.
Yeah, okay. Okay, we'll move on. I can't remember who it was. Trying to figure it out. All right. You know what this might be a good time for, Harm?
To transition to Stat of the Day.
I think so.
The Stat of the Day is a presentation of Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip. Before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Hashtag crave the stats. So with Quinn Hughes out of lineup, I was curious to look at how have the Canucks at 5-on-5 performed in non-Quinn Hughes minutes. Courtesy Natural Stat Trick, they're up 10-7 in terms of goals, which shows they've held up well results-wise. It is interesting from a process standpoint, only controlling 44% of shot attempts. So they have been giving up a lot of shots and not generating a lot offensively. But what's kept them afloat and ensured that they're not only holding their own, but actually winning their 5-on-5 minutes without Quinn this season is the fact that they have a .945 save percentage at 5-on-5 when Quinn Hughes hasn't been on the ice. And that, of course, includes last game when he didn't play. So the overall point, I think, is this Canucks team's performance in non-Quinn Hughes minutes is heavily dependent on goaltending, where they're able to hold up well enough without Quinn. It's not as if the bottom completely falls out, that if they get stellar play between the pipes, they can win hockey games, as we saw against the Oilers. But if that level slips, then that's a team that, because they're still being outshot and generally outchanced, that things are going to look a lot worse. We spent so much time talking about how brilliant Thatcher Demko has been, and we knew all season long that goaltending was going to be a massive storyline. But when you don't have Quinn Hughes in the lineup, it becomes that much more important that you get great play between the pipes. And this is where it also gets interesting, because Kevin Lankinen, I thought against Montreal, that was the first time that I thought, all right, that was a bad outing for him. The previous starts he had, I thought he was average. I thought it was okay. I thought it was more the team in front of him didn't defend very well. But against Montreal, some of the long distance shots, including the Mike Matheson one where he wasn't really screened and it was just a floater point shot from distance, he needs to stop. And I know Quinn's status is day-to-day, but we also know with this organization that day-to-day can end up becoming a lot longer than that. So the point being, it's a Demko start tonight, but I'm really curious if we don't get Hughes for the next little while, how is Adam Foote going to choose his goaltenders? Because quite clearly, when you look at the data, the goaltending is what's propping them up without Quinn.
And I've been talking about this. I've been talking about this for a while. I brought it up again yesterday, Harm, as well. There's something in the chat. Where'd it go? Yeah, Brad was asking Quinn Hughes. Does Quinn Hughes being out help the power play? It seems more diverse without him. Irv and I broke this down yesterday too. I ask you this, Harm: is Quinn the problem?
No, I mean the difference is, well, one change I noticed is, first of all, just how the PK was defending Vancouver's power play, both against Edmonton and even against Montreal when Quinn was in the lineup. It felt like a big storyline out of the Nashville game when the power play looked awful was the Preds did a terrific job of just pressuring the top so aggressively and forcing the Canucks into quick decisions, quick passes, and it's that pressure that caused them to fumble passes, turn pucks over. You notice EP's one-timer goal against the Oilers and how nicely the Canucks are zipping it around. Watch the Oilers PK. They're not pressuring at all. It's a very passive PK setup, and I think that's a consistent theme I've noticed with this Canucks power play for years is the more aggressive you are at pressuring them higher in the zone, not only at the point, but also at the flanks, the more that they're prone to making mistakes. And I don't think this is a Canucks specific thing either. I think most power plays around the NHL struggle against aggressive PKs that can close lanes really quickly. So I think part of the power play looking good without Quinn was just that I don't think Edmonton's PK played very well, especially compared to the latter stages of the road trip and the kind of competition the Canucks are facing there. And then from a Canucks execution standpoint, their forwards were zipping it around way quicker. It felt instinctual. There was nobody accepting a pass, getting their head up, and then scanning their options. Everything was kind of bang, bang, and none of that has to do with Quinn Hughes. Now, credit to Filip Hronek. I thought he stepped in very well and did as well as he could have, but I think a lot of it was just the forwards executing better and the opposition's PK being a little bit more passive.
Let's get to anyone else because there's more. There's more on Quinn. There's more on a lot of different topics right now. So let's get to anyone else, which is a presentation of Pacific Toyota Dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. You can drive up to 72 kilometers on the battery alone, then seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower or style with its sleek, low and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. Plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in BC alone. And now you can lease a 2025 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down. And it includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. All right. Hell of a shot in the anyone else chat said, if Dan Murphy ever retires, I think Harm will fit in flawlessly. Do you want the job, Harm?
Well, Murph's never going to retire because the dude doesn't age.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yep, that's a good point. Would you ever want to be a host?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that. I enjoy breaking things down. I like analyzing. And as a host, you don't get to analyze as much.
Yeah.
Plus,
I do like driving the conversation, though. I do like throwing at people. Yeah. Maybe I can host. I mean, I guess I host this show. Anyways, where'd it go? There's another one. Yeah, this is from Adam Mofat. Harm, the Canucks were outplayed for the first 3 games of the season, but recently I feel like they have played better and controlled play even. However, the advanced stats don't match the eye test.
I disagree a little bit with the way he broke it up in terms of first 3 games struggled, and then after they've looked a lot better eye test wise. They've had moments, I think, where with the eye test where they've looked better. I like their 5-on-5 game a lot against Montreal, but then and the numbers reflected that in that game. We're looking at it now, like 55% of shot attempts, 61% of expected goals, but they didn't look good by the eye test at all against Pittsburgh and Nashville. And then against Edmonton, they held up well considering Quinn Hughes wasn't in the lineup, but let's not forget how big of a story Thatcher Demko was and how much I think that propped them up a little bit. I don't think they've looked that much better on the whole than their underlying numbers would indicate. But of course, the underlying numbers, while a little bit concerning, also aren't fully representative of this team because there have been so many injuries and they've played a pretty grueling road trip in when they went out to the States. So there are a lot of factors that I think affect the underlying results, but I'd say outside of the Montreal game, I don't know that by the eye test, Montreal game I liked. Last 40 minutes, the Dallas game I really liked. The Washington game, the first 40 minutes I really liked. So they've had it in stretches, but I don't think they've had it for like multi-game 3, 4, 5 games in a row where I've loved their process.
I am Big Doggy in the chat said, anyone else thoughts on Marcus Pettersson? He seems to be struggling. I know he will probably bounce back, but EP25 Elias Pettersson looks more consistent than him lately.
I disagree. I think Marcus hasn't been perfect, but he also plays way tougher minutes than DPD, and I think it's been tough considering the injuries, how much he's had to adjust to rotating D partners, and one shift he's out there with Myers, and then the next shift might be out there with some of their younger defensemen. He's had a lot thrown on his plate. Do I think he has a higher level to his game? Yes, but he's being asked to do a ton right now, and I think the environment around him isn't the best right now. Marcus Pettersson strikes me as a player, and I think this is a lot of defensemen around the league where I think the number of defensemen in the NHL who can single-handedly bend and change the environment around them, it's maybe 40 guys, maybe 50 defensemen in the entire league that are so good that no matter what team they're on, who their D partner is, they're going to drive high-end results. I think there are a lot more top 4 defensemen that are in a similar boat as Marcus Pettersson, where a lot of it comes down to fit, where if the team around them is controlling play, where if their D partner is solid, then their underlying numbers are going to look amazing and their whole process is going to look good. But if the team generally isn't the most structured, if their D partners are rotating a lot, if they're playing a lot of difficult minutes without a lot of help, well, then they're good players, but they're not so dominant on their own that they're going to single-handedly tilt the ice. And I think Marcus Pettersson is one of those players that he's a really good supporting top 4 defenseman. And right now you have a pretty chaotic environment around him. So I think that's part of it too.
All right, on the defense, this was from Cole Parzik in the chat, who said, split up Quinn and Hronek when both are healthy. Hronek is so slept on. He can do it all. I was talking a lot about Hronek yesterday. Love how on the power play he's trying to pass to Elias Pettersson. Not blasting too many shots, even though he's got a good shot of his own. Was really looking to pass the puck on the power play. What say you about this idea, though, of splitting them up when both guys are healthy? I don't really like it.
Yeah, I lean towards Quinn and Hronek just because when they're together, we have a long track record of them being, if not the best defense player in the NHL, at least number 2. So it's hard to go away from that. And I think you look at Hronek's numbers away from Quinn Hughes. I pulled it up here, about 900 at 5-on-5, and in that sample, the Canucks have still been outshot by a pretty decent margin. Now they're fine goals wise. It's not as if on the scoreboard they've been pumped. But the point being, it's not that Hronek away from Quinn has been so dominant at 5-on-5 to where I think he'd be so much better away that it's worth splitting them up. But we'll see if he puts together a string of games where Hronek is looking this good. Then maybe when Quinn comes back, you could play him with Tyler Myers and look to spread them out. Because I will say, as much as we talked about Quinn's slow start, Hronek didn't look very good either. I didn't think his passing was on point. Defensively, he had a couple of shaky moments. I think back to, I want to say, the Washington game where he made the wrong read, completely put himself out of position, and the Caps scored. And then we saw, all right, when Quinn's not in the lineup, he needs to be more assertive making plays. He is taking on more responsibility on his own. So let's see how Hronek looks away from Quinn as long as Quinn is in the lineup. But ultimately, when Quinn does come back, I still think I'd lean towards playing them together.
Zach Gooden, excuse me, in the chat said the problem splitting up Hughes and Hronek is who plays with Hughes 25 minutes a night. It's a good question. Like you're going to be leaning on Tyler Myers in that role. No, Julesen's busy right now, so you can't go out for him. Tough one. All right. Yeah, okay. I got to get this. All right. Now, I'm not trying to make fun of anyone. I'm not trying to call anyone out, but I've seen it too many times. Has anyone DM'd you? And no, I've seen it a few times. Has anyone reached out to you or put it in? I know they're putting it in this chat. Been like, hey, the Canucks are having faceoff problems. Just call up Manny. Like, get Manny Malhotra to come teach everyone how to do faceoffs.
No, I haven't had anyone say that.
I've had a few people suggest this, and there's people in the chat doing it again today. Guys, he's the head coach of the AHL team. Like, he's got a job. You can't just be like, hey, man, can you come up and show everybody how to do faceoffs? And this goes as far back as when we had Manny on the show. People in the chat were like, can you ask him if he'll come teach them how to do faceoffs? And I assumed they were kidding, but now it's happening so much. I don't think people are joking. Like, people are bringing this up as an actual solution that, oh, we have this ace on faceoffs during his playing days down in Abbotsford. Come on up to Vancouver just for a practice. Like, that's not how it works. The training camp was the time for Manny to show what he knows. But man, like, he's the coach. He's the head coach of the AHL team. And look at his roster he's dealing with right now. He's got enough stuff to deal with right now.
Yeah, and Manny, any coach can help make incremental gains. And I think Manny's one of the best on this planet at helping centermen improve their faceoffs. But also, he's not a miracle worker. There's only so much a coach can do where you can see, I mean, Max Sasson spent a ton of time under him, and I'm looking at his faceoff stats this year. He's 26.7%. Nils Aman has spent a lot of time in the AHL, and I would bet you, I haven't actually looked it up yet, but I would bet you his faceoff stats
right.
have
I'm going to guess it's a 3 or a 4. And if it's a 4,
I guess he's only played in 2 games. He's at 50%, but
what's last year? What was last year?
37.8%.
Yeah, there you go.
But the point being, it's not like, even if you could, let's say hypothetically, you're like, hey, Manny, just, you're out in Abbotsford, the team's at home, just hop on over to Rogers Arena. You're not going to spend a couple practice sessions with Manny and have these centers all of a sudden jumping up from 40% guys to 45% in the faceoff dot, or let alone up to 50%.
John Scav in the chat said, just bring him up. Show the boys. No, that's not how it works, John. Now, this might be rage bait. This might be someone just trying to troll us. But anyways.
I think that's just trolling.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's good. Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else? Oh, yeah. Okay. I know we talked about this recently, but Brad missed it. Jeff had his Nation Network flag on his mic going. And Brad was like, oh, what's the Nation Network? And this is why we're trying to get people to understand what the Nation Network is, because we've got a lot of brands, obviously. And Brad was like, oh, well, you should change it to Canucks Nation instead of Canucks Army. I think I talked about this not that long ago, but the reason Canucks Army is not called Canucks Nation, and that Oilers Nation, Flames Nation, Blue Jays Nation, all those nation sites that we have, why they're all nation sites and why we're Canucks Army, even though we're part of the Nation Network, is that our founder, Jay, who's been on this show before, when he went to go buy all the URLs, Canucks Nation was already taken in 2008 or 2009 when he went to go do it. So Canucks Nation is a URL that is taken, canucksnation.com. Might have been able to do .ca, but usually, like, if there's one out there, it's not a great idea. So we became Canucks Army because of that. Now, go to canucksnation.com. I encourage everybody to. And it just says this page is under construction, says buy tickets for hockey games, and then there's a like a do follow link. Don't click any of the links. I'm not telling people to click any of the links, but yeah, they own this Network Solutions owns canucksnation.com, and that's why it's Canucks Army. So and why it will never be Canucks Nation, just so everybody knows.
Fun story.
Little history lesson there. Okay, anything else from either of you? I feel like I had something that I want to talk about, but I forgot.
Well, we still have that one clip of did we get to Pettersson from his run?
Yeah, so like Jeff said, he didn't really want to talk about it, but he did still talk about it. So I think it's worth bringing up what Elias Pettersson had to say when he was asked about JT Miller and that return today.
He's an unbelievable player. He plays hard, and if I get matched up with him tonight, I'm going to try and try to be the winning side of it. Yeah, he's a really good power forward, plays with skill, plays hard, and he's trying to take away time and space for him.
He will get that matchup. Like, he's going to get that matchup. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a fun game to watch for sure. Okay, anything else from either of you?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. I've been on with my World Series bets, I'll tell you that much. So I'm going back to it.
Oh, by the way, actually, no, off yesterday's game. Am I crazy, or was it not a pretty obvious decision to not pitch to Ohtani in that situation?
No, you were not crazy. They had a mound visit and threw him a middle fastball.
I will say though,
the hindsight take.
Yeah.
I had turned to whoever we had an athletic staff dinner at Steamworks, and before the at bat, I was like, hey, like, you gotta you shouldn't pitch to Ohtani in this spot, right? Like, 1 out, no one's on base. You don't want to have him homer and tie the game up, and then the meatball down the middle.
The problem wasn't pitching to him; it was giving him a fastball in the strike zone. Because when they approached it, whenever he came up late in extra, like, was it the 17th inning or the 16th inning when they just pitched to him and gave him 4 sliders out of the zone? That's what you should have done. And if he's super antsy and he chases one, or maybe the umpire has a bad call, gives you the corner when you're about an inch offside, which there was a lot of missed calls in that game, pitches outside of the zone being called for strikes. That's when you pitch to. That's why you would pitch to him. And hey, maybe he chases one, you get a bad call, he's 0-2, now you've got a chance. But there shouldn't have been a single fastball thrown in that at bat. You're absolutely right there, Harm. Like, why are you challenging Shohei Ohtani up by 1 in the World Series? Like, it should have been the non-intentional intentional walk. 4 sliders or curveballs out of the zone.
Which is what he got later.
Yeah, it's just exactly what he got later. Have no problem when you do that. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Harm. A fastball in that situation was ridiculous.
Brad brings this up. Hey, if you're talking baseball, when did they change the intentional walk rule? This new one is ridiculous. I got to say, keep the intentional walk rule how it is. And for those that don't know, the manager can just flash up 4 fingers to the umpire and the guy gets the base. Whereas before you had to throw 4 balls, like pitch outs, Yeah, but why would those pitch outs, like we've seen in the past, like with Miguel Cabrera, they can swing at it and hit it into the field. So it always made for really, really funny moments. But my take on it is keep the rule how it is right now for the regular season, but playoffs, it's like because it's all about the speed of the game. Like, that's why they're doing it, right? So you basically now need to have it so it's like the runner on second, the ghost runner in extra innings, where that doesn't happen in the playoffs. In the playoffs, you can't just flash up 4 fingers. You need to throw 4 balls. That's my take, at least.
Interesting. Don't you think, though, that they might have a little bit less, like, if you're not doing it in the regular season, then they might be rusty in terms of just those pitch outs, and that you might be more likely to get those hilarious dumb scenarios
which would be awesome, by the way.
Like,
Everyone loves that.
You want to see?
Yeah, a botch. A botched.
There's no way. I need to set this down. The pitch out is just them lobbing it outside of the batter's box. Like,
I guess, yeah.
Practicing. If you play catch, you're practicing pitch outs. It's not a difficult thing to do that you need to, like, tune up.
But to Harman's point, you've seen it before where, like, you'll just botch you'll botch an intentional walk back in the day. It happens. You accidentally.
Imagine you're a pitcher that's never been. Imagine you're a pitcher and you've never played in the postseason before. What if that's your first time ever throwing in an intentional walk like that with the pitch outs in a high pressure situation?
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Brad asked what the ghost runner is. I brought it up. So in the regular season, if a game goes to extra innings, a runner starts on second base immediately. It leads to quicker scoring. You don't like. I watched the Cleveland Guardians game between them and the Blue Jays back in like 2017, 2018 that went to, what was that game? 18 innings, Jacob? Or
18 innings. It was on.
Yeah.
It was on Canada Day.
Yeah.
Edwin Encarnacion got tossed in the first inning. So did the Blue Jays manager. I believe it was John Farrell at the time. Might have still been. Was it still Gibbons?
Gibby?
No, it was Gibby. It was Gibby because it was after the playoff runs. Yes, it was Gibby. They both got tossed in the first inning, and the game went 18. So.
Yeah. So, anyways, it avoids that. That's the point. They don't want games going that long in the regular season, but it doesn't happen in the playoffs. So that's my point. Okay. Yeah, great game last night. Really, really great game. Matt Friesen on Canucks Nation said they're waiting for your cheap asses to buy the URL. See, that would be a really bad business decision. This is what I've explained to people as well. And also, someone was like, "Oh, why are you promoting other businesses?" You guys realize I'm the editor-in-chief of the Nation Network, right? Like, I oversee the content for all of the websites that we have. Anyways, I'm parking that. We never buy that URL. Could you imagine just changing the name of Canucks Army right now after
Can't do it.
years of building good SEO habits? And like, if you Google Canucks, we pop up just like the Province pops up, just like the Athletic pops up. We pop up there. You change the name of your site, and you're playing with fire. So anyway, all right, let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. We're taking. Oh yeah. Okay. We're going to take. Actually, no, we're not going to take that. That's not nice. We're not going to do that. We're going to take Addison Barger homer at plus 550 odds anytime. Addison Barger to hit a home run.
Now, I will say that's the one move I was not happy they made yesterday, was taking Barger out when they did.
Yeah.
Because you are already planning on taking Bichette out early. And then Kirk, you knew like at some point inevitably you were going to have to pinch run for him. But like if they had Barger's bat in that lineup in all those extra innings, he is a guy who can just run into one by mistake and give you a lead. That killed them. And Springer too, obviously, but they didn't choose to take him out. He got hurt. But if you have Springer and Barger, those extra innings might go differently. Maybe we're not talking about an 18-inning game last night. We're talking about a 14-inning game or 13-inning game.
I'm going for it. 550. Addison Barger, anytime home run. We're taking it. Plus 550 odds. You can get that over at Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right. We will close it out there. For my co-host, Harman Dial, and our technical producer, Jacob Bazar, our thanks again to Jeff Patterson for joining us. Make sure you tune in to Rinkwide after the game, folks. My name is Jacob Bajelli. Thanks so much for this episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.